everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. And today our researcher celebrity is Dr. Tanay Bhatt. Tanay has done MSc in biochemistry at MS University Baroda, and then he moved to NCBS for his PhD program, where he worked on wound healing. So we will be I believe today many of the audiences will be healed, or not with wounds, but the researcher things. And then he continued his postdoctoral fellowship at Instem, and he's working on anti-peptides so that they can counter the antimicrobial resistance. And correct me, Tanay, if I'm wrong. And recently, last year, he also got Biotech Ignition Grant Award for being an entrepreneur, for which I think he has started Koshkey Science Private Limited already. So with this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Tanay today, spending some time with us and sharing your journey with the peers so that people can get guided and motivated through what you have done. Welcome, Tanay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me. I hope our interactions and this interview will at least be able to, help some of the candidates.
Yes, absolutely. We look forward to this conversation, and how we specifically start is like when and what was the time when you thought that you want to be a researcher?
So researcher and being a scientist is a very late stage realization. Most I think I'm talking in behalf of probably many people that those who have interest in research, they probably have interest in something more basic, like I had into the natural sciences and life sciences since my school days. And then your family background and your teachers, all these environment propels you towards your interest, and they probably encourage you too, so that you think that yes, whatever you are liking, you are studying is worth pursuing further. And that's how my interest started, beginning in the biological sciences. And so I took zoology in my bachelor's, thinking that okay, we are the generation who watched Discovery and National Geographic, so I thought that maybe going into the wild and taking pictures of the wild animals would be the job, and that's cool too. But then after joining the zoology bachelor's program at the MS University, I realized that it's not just one wildlife is the only focus. There was a lot more to the that basic science. They were teaching molecular biology, biochemistry, botany, and chemistry as well. And so I started realizing that the science does not, or any field of science is not standalone. Everything is quite intermingled and dependent on uh, various other fields. And so after finishing my bachelor's, I was interacting with various professors of the master's department of biochemistry and microbiology, and I realized that their courses, although not as basic as zoology and botany, have some very interesting aspect to it. One was the biotechnology and molecular biology, and there was this. The biotechnology was a booming name at that time. Just like this time, it's already going on that. Uh, Biotechnology can help cure many diseases, and genetic engineering is something which is upcoming next. It's like okay, now then probably this is the department where I should go and learn that. And it was also providing good career options after MSCs, be in terms of jobs or joining the PhDs. So after, I guess, this master's in biochemistry was the period when I really got introduced to the research, what we are calling research today, because master is the first time I was assigned to a project where I was supposed to identify what these antibiotics, which bacteria are producing, have impact on another bacteria of same and different species. And it was fascinating that the antibiotics we only know as that it will kill another bacteria, but there are some antibiotics which can help the friend bacteria and only kill the enemy bacteria. And what are the biological molecular pathways are ongoing and all, then that slowly made me interested in microbiology for sure, that yes, this is the field I would like to work in future. So that's how it slowly built up. And the environment in masters was such that everybody were preparing for national level PhD entrance exams like CSIR and ICMR and DBT, and so I was also in the bandwagon that yes, if everybody is preparing, I must prepare. And that was also the one confirmed way of getting a fellowship, which is we can call it a salary. Once you get into the PhD program, at least you will get some stipend is fixed. So I was preparing for that. I could clear CSIR. I was very happy, and then came this entrance exams for TIFR also. And in that interview, I started when I visited the campus in person, this NCBS. I realized it's a very fancy. You must have seen the campus. All the big names of the scientists all are working over here. That really cool projects and all. So I decided, yes, whatever happens, I must get into this campus. Although at that point I was not sure what field of the biological science I'll get into, but the campus in itself and the environment was very lucrative. And then yes, after I cleared this interviews of NCBS, I could started the lab rotations, and then through that I met Professor Colin Jamora, and then I think he so far is the best inspiration and motivation for me to understand the science, learn the science, and do the science. So I guess I'll stop over there. That yes, this is how probably my journey has been.
No, this is just the start of the conversation. We will go deep into it from here now. So you said that when you came to the campus, you liked the campus, and then you were like, I want to be here. But at that moment, you were not sure that which lab, which project you are more interested into. So there, what we see is like a researcher who is ready to commit, but what to commit is still questionable. Like, it's just not explored it now. So the researcher in the explorer mode, that's what you were. So during your rotation, then how you ended up with your mentor?
Yeah, so rotation journey was also very interesting because I had a very fixed mindset that I like microbiology. So I'll only look at those labs who are even relatively and remotely doing some sort of microbiology work. But then this is the this fascination and comfort zone are the things which would lead you to one direction, but after you reach the destination you realize that no, this is not what exactly I wanted. So I started working in some of the dry lab which were working on the bacterial genomes and this and that, and but I realized that no, sitting in front of the computer since was not my training as well as was not my liking. So then this rotation, generally people select the labs within 2 rotations. I had to go for third one because I was not able to find my interest at that time. Dean of Academia, Professor Purva Sareen had called me in her office that, Tanay, you are coming with a very fixed mindset that you want to get into microbiology. Just leave that aside. Explore now with very open mind what all you can, learn from this campus, from the PIs over here. And at least that conversation, I think, was helpful. And then I went and met Colin Jamora. Cell biology and pathways of the cell biology were kind of scaring me in my biochemistry masters. But the way Colin explained to me, he was very excited in telling me that this is how wound initiation happens, and this is the skin diseases we work on, and this is one project we is very challenging. Would you like to work on it? Now I had no idea what he was talking about. On top of his American accent, which also was difficult to understand at that time. But that enthusiasm, clicked me that if he's so passionate about his research, I'm sure he will make sure that I also become the same way as enthusiastic. So I think in addition to the science and research liking, I also chose what mentor I like. And that was, I think, the best decision I made. And in Colin's part, that I am thankful to him that he allowed me to do PhD with him. And that was the period when the shift from what you like on paper as your subject of interest to in reality, in practicality, what you actually end up doing. that decision was made in that period.
Nice. So here I would like to tell all the audiences that never be fixed, be flexible if you want to be a researcher, because that is how you can keep going for, for the lifetime. Because sometimes if you start something with the fixed outcomes, because they say they anticipate something. So when you are anticipating, it has two meanings: a, what you want it to come; a, b, that it might not work that way. So as Tanay wanted to do something, but the way Colin, like Dr. Colin just explained it to him, his enthusiasm took him to join his lab, and apparently he has done quite well with the PhD. So when you registered with Dr. Colin, and then when you completed, during this journey, how was the, probably I can say the word, there might have been some turmoils, some things which you might have missed, or some things which when you compare it with your peers, you feel that you are privileged to have those. If you can share some of those with our audience.
Yeah. So after joining the PhD, the first this few months were both exciting and full of anxiety, I would call it, because the lab environment wise was very nice. Colin was quite approachable. The lab was full of a sense of humor. So the tension of that, that, oh, I have to finish PhD was never there. But the project, what we started was with a very simple question, but very difficult answer. The question was, how do cells sense the injury?
Mhm.
It was as simple as that. And then you start reading about the literature about, okay, wound sensing has to, somebody must have studied, but everybody had studied quite, the once the wound healing has started, what biochemical changes are occurring, what cells are taking part, what are the complexities and immune cells and this and that. But nobody was talking about first 4 to 8 hours after the injury. How do cells sense it? And that was the question which Colin had given me, and I was trying to understand that what all signals could be there. So first I thought, okay, maybe the dead cell debris which are coming out of the dead cells could be causing this signal. The other thing was probably the bacteria from the environment are entering the wound and they are causing the signal. And the third one was that really that cut we are making, something is happening over there which is making the signal. And then when I was doing the experiment in vitro, because you cannot do all the experiments in vivo, which is a very mixed population of cells. So in vitro, I had taken the skin cells, I was growing them and doing these different things, but none of them was giving me the wound signal which I was looking for. And that is when this there was several talk on that how mechanobiology is field which is coming up, and then during the development of an embryo, how mechanobiological the tensions between the cells take place, and that defines how the organism will grow and all that. And then I realized that, oh, skin cells are also quite tightly linked with each other, and cadherin junctions are very important in the way skin is so elastic among many other organs. So why not mechanotension could be taking place over here as well? And then that was the click that yes, then when we started modulating those molecules which were playing role in the regulating the mechanical tension between the cells, within the cells, then we started getting the same signals, and then realized, oh yes, this is how probably cells are sensing that yes, when there is a cut, it's like elastic is getting tension release, and this tension release is leading to the initiation of the injury, or the injury sensing or the wound healing. And that is when then the cells which are at the edge of the injury are now releasing the factors which are now telling the other cells, okay, here is the injury, let's start the work of repair. So but then this click, what I'm telling you in just 2-3 minutes, took me a couple of years to reach, because as we start the PhD, throughout, I told this earlier in another seminar also, that throughout our schooling system, bachelor's and master's also, we have always been trained to just answer the questions. We never ask questions.
Mhm.
We are always given the question sheet, and we just have to learn the answers from the textbook or the internet and just mug up and write down. But when something like this comes that nobody knows in the world, that in itself is mind-boggling, that really this question nobody has asked and nobody knows the answer. That click takes a couple of years. If there are bright minds, they may correct this quite early on, but I took a little longer period to learn this, that yes, there are questions which are important to ask, and there are answers which are difficult to give, but that is how the research works.
Yeah, in fact, rightly said. Some of the people, how like researchers wanted to define themselves as like research is something which everyone sees, but just no one sees it the way you said. Okay, so there was this question there forever, but you were the one who was like, okay, how it studied, and sometimes you feel like seriously nobody have studied this, and that's when the researcher with their own question, make significant success because they are the one who started that field. And speaking of which, when you completed your PhD, were there any idea that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? And when this Koshkey Science Private Limited came into play, or in your thought?
Yeah, so no, entrepreneurship was never even in my dreams. People though used to say that, hey, you belong to Gujarat, you must be having some business related genes, but none in my distant family is into business, so had never heard that. This translational research came not just with one day that you wake up and think that I'll do this, but when you go present your research in form of posters and talks in various conferences, you talk to not just the people from your own field, but also those who are belonging to the industry or from any other field. They come up with very unique perspective, and one such perspective was that, hey, you are working on wound healing. Have you heard of this diabetic people have difficulty in wound healing? And then these questions keep coming back and forth, and then they ask you, do you think that your discovery will be able to solve that problem? And I was pleasantly surprised that, oh, people are connecting it for me. I am not asking this question, they are asking it for me. Like, okay, thank you, let me look at it. And then we started looking at it, and then we are also fortunate here, and I would say privileged, that this Bliss campus, they call it, the NCBS, Instem, and CCAM, and now TIGS also. There are a lot of this perspective people give. There is a lot of collaborations which go on, and CCAM particularly is the center where people learn this entrepreneurship firsthand. That's where you get a lot of such competitions going on, and one such competition was antimicrobial resistant quest. They were looking for what ideas you have which can translate into something which can battle the superbugs. And that's where I proposed this project, that we don't just heal the non-healing wounds in diabetic, but we can also treat these wounds infected with antimicrobial resistant bacteria. And that project got selected over there, and we got the first prize over there. And that was the one such motivation for us, that yes, people are liking it, people are understanding, and they are also encouraging us that yes, what you are looking, your idea is really novel, go after it. The second one was Innovation Forum from UK, and they selected us among the top 15 candidates, emerging startups among the world, who are solving some really important questions. So these kind of feedback was basically kept telling us that if you want to do science in basic field, that is good, but if you want to do it translationally, then there is another route, and which is not just doing science in the lab, but it has to go on to the entrepreneurial route, where not just the work in the lab is required, but you also have to understand what is the need in the market, how big is the market, who is going to invest in you, how will you generate the revenue, how will you please your investors. And these things, whatever I'm saying, I'm still learning. So this is the route on which we are at. We are learning new jargons, business related, science related, almost every day. So I think Colin was also quite, encouraging, and he was initially the one who, pushed me that you should look into this particular entrepreneurial route. And I thought that, why not?
Absolutely. So how does it feel now, as you said, that administrative and management thing, also entrepreneur, new jargons you are learning. So how a researcher feel, how comfortable you feel when you are talking to investors for your, for fundings, and when you are explaining your science to them?
Not at all comfortable. The reason is again simple, right? That initially I was saying that in the school we were only taught how to answer the questions. In the research we learn how to ask the question, and now in the entrepreneurship we are learning how to make your business plan ready, because investors are not just interested in your science, because ideas are plenty and ideas are sometimes free. What is difficult to find is probably a team who can execute this idea into something really, translatable, something, a sort of a product which can go into the market. And that training definitely we do not have as basic science researcher. So again, as I was mentioning, that having a system like CCamp into the Bliss campus is important, because they keep on organize seminars. They make you talk to various sort of investors or other peers, entrepreneurs who have gone through the same path. So they teach you some of the things, that this is your idea and this is your product, and there is a lot of work needs to be done in between, from where you will find your source material to how will you test the your drug, safety, efficacy, preclinical, clinical, how much funding you will require for that. All these details, sometimes overwhelming, but I think that is how this field is growing. And I think that in general, from last, I think 3 to 5 years, we are seeing that in India startups are booming. Every lot of people are getting inspired from those startups who are doing really well, and learning from them. I think it's a very good era probably we are looking at.
Absolutely. So here I would like to tell all our audience and viewers that Tanay is a researcher and a celebrity. So he got the funds, from India, from UK. So now, Tanay, your journey, what I want to ask here is, you can be instrumental in telling persons, like people, because now what we have seen is like researchers are coming up with the entrepreneurial mode. They really want to do translational research, and then they want to move from lab to the product. And as you have just recently discovered this path, you said that was never either, it was like just doing the like giving the answers, or then it was like now asking the questions, but here it is too much to do. What are your suggestions based on your experience, that if a researcher is pursuing either PhD or a postdoc and then they want to be an entrepreneur, what are the key components they should be considering and they should start considering as soon as possible?
Yeah, so while I'm saying that we are not trained for entrepreneurship, PhD gives us a very valuable lesson, is that you can learn anything. Basically, PhD is not just you're answering your question, but you already learn collaborations, and sort of MBA sort of thing on its own happens during your PhD. So that knowledge and that experience comes handy. So if you want to pursue entrepreneurship, if you have idea, good. If you not, that is also good. But then start getting the experience. Start talking to people who are already in this route. We are still doing the same. We still keep talking to those people who are into the entrepreneurship, those who have started the startup, people of sometimes younger than my age, maybe practically might have lesser experience, but they are doing very well, because some of the people might have this leadership skill within them, and that's something which we should always be open to learn. And so I think this keeping your mind again open to learn is the advice I would give, that if you really want to get into this, start looking what are the ways to get into this. One is the funding which you will need. So biotech ignition grant is something which you should be looking at, which gives grants to the individuals as well as startups. There are also several probably international forums which might not provide you grant, but at least the training they provide. Innovation Forum is one of that. There is a Falling Walls. There is another one which also gives entrepreneurship training. Also, your institute already has such kind of technology transfer offices and all that. Also, you can look at. And it's possible that not everybody needs to found their own companies for their translational research. So many professors are doing this. I have seen they collaborate with existing companies who are already having the business acumen and how to translate the research. Now you provide your idea and have some sort of MOU between the two entities, your institute and this company, that whatever this however this particular product goes ahead, what sort of royalties can be shared between the institutes and the companies. That's also a very good way to go ahead. So I think keep your options open and talk to people, keep networking. You are maybe listening to this Empowering Science Foundation talks. I'm sure many such people would come. Don't get scared. Just connect with them on LinkedIn, Twitter, or whatever ways you found with them. Start chatting, start emailing. Maximum thing will happen is that they might not reply. But if they reply, that's good.
Yes. So that's what we call communication is the key. You just communicate. Yes. You throw out your questions, write emails, try contacts, make network, and then this is the network which pays off high time. So here, now the second question comes about the business plan. In PhD, people got trained, like some of them, if they have their own fellowships, so they are maintaining their fellowships, what came, what went out. So they now basic training of keeping the tracks, keeping the inflow and outflow of the money. But when it comes to the entrepreneur mode, and then when they have to develop a business plan, this is one thing which probably I want you to share what they should be considerate of.
Yeah, so during our PhDs and postdocs, our funding comes from the academic background. Most of the consumables and machines are quite subsidized for us. So we sometimes don't even know the real price, what we are paying. We just say that please order this thing, and somebody orders, somebody receives it for you, and you have it on your bench and you start working. So if you're in PhD and postdoc, maybe start looking at the pricings, that whatever one experiment you are doing, say just doing a PCR and running a gel, try to estimate what is the cost and how much time do you take. Now, if you are a company who would charge somebody to do a PCR and run a gel for it, how much would you charge? You would be very surprised that most of us would come with a very, very small amount than it is actually in the market, than where a real company is actually providing this service. We might come up with something like 5,000, 10,000 rupees for one gel, one PCR. But then when you actually try to sum up with everything that you have to pay yourself also, because there is a efforts which is going on, so there is a manpower, there is a consumable you have to buy, and that consumable does not come just for one PCR. It will come for hundreds of PCRs. That agarose gel, that buffer. So all this is a practice. You can do the practice that in the PhD, in the postdoc, at least start. And this is also very valuable. Sometimes we have something which we are not very careful about. We just throw them in the sink. But if we know the price tag associated with it, we might think, no, if this is so costly, let me reuse it. So these kind of, I would say, frugal ways come handy when you start your own journey. But now, instead of thinking about one PCR and one gel, now you have to think about one, entire entrepreneurial or one entire enterprise. Because now you would be thinking with what's the goal? Okay, I want to develop this drug. And then you start asking a backward questions that if this drug has to reach the market, it needs to go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. Before I reach the phase 1 clinical trial, I have to do the preclinical studies in the animal models. Then you start searching that for the regular oral drug, how many types of animal models are required: mouse, rodent, non-rodents, rabbits, dogs. Who is doing that in India? We also do, like, there are some CROs who are doing some research on pigs. We email them and ask for the quotation that we want to try this drug on the skin of the pigs, and these are the time points. This is what I want to try on rabbits. These are time points. What is the cost? Then you will receive some quotations of say 10 lakh, 20 lakh rupees. Then you realize, okay, if they are saying just for one drug, one molecule candidate, this is the time it is going to take for this much, then okay, that comes in your business plan, that this is the investment I need at this stage. If you have not reached this stage, then you are even the earlier stage of idea stage, where you have to still start with in vitro experiments. You are just working on the cell lines. You will be checking the safety and efficacy at that level. Then you will slowly move towards the animal studies. So at every stage, you keep on adding not just that what it would take to get a successful experiment, but also add the money, that how much will it take to when the experiments will fail, because we know from our PhD that not every experiment is successful. Almost 90% of them fail in the earlier days of PhD. So that failure also has a cost associated with it. So when you ask the investor that we need this much money, you ask for the failed experiments as well. And the best thing among all this is, again, I'm saying, is have a mentor. In our group, we have Narendra Chirmule, who was ex head of R&D at Biocon, and Dr. Balganesh, who is heading Gangajan company. So these are very well-known names, and getting the time is also I think is difficult. But we convince them that their guidance is very important to us, and if they give us guidance, this is where we want to reach. Then these people and maybe other your peers and company also organizations like CCAM will help you build your business plan, that at what stage how much money you will require, and then you go and pitch this idea at various meetings in front of various investors, and then you will get very I would say strong criticism that no, this is completely bullshit. Then you go back. You don't get disappointed, but you go back and then try to understand it, why they said so. Because investors are not the government is not paying. They are taking out money from their pocket or somebody's pocket. So they are very critical about the ideas, and they are very frank about it too. That no, your team is lacking some expert. Then you have to find those experts. If your idea has certain flaws, then you have to modify your ideas. Your everything is perfect, but the way you want to take it to the market, that is wrong. Then you might have to get a person who is aware of that. So ultimately it all comes to having probably a flexible mind, having networks, and be able to take the criticisms in a positive way.
Absolutely right. So Tanay, I would like to tell all of our viewers that whosoever are researchers and trying to be an entrepreneur sometime soon, or even in later their ages, just listen what Tanay just said. Every single point you have to, make bullet points, do your from hypothesis to publication to everything, follow the points which Tanay just said, and that will help you for sure. Tanay, you have done basic fundamental research, then now working towards translational research, and then soon when you will be the company will flourish, then you will be more of the administrational research. How do you balance your work and life?
Fortunately that I don't have to think a lot about it. This work-life balance videos and articles I read a lot, but somehow I don't connect with them as much, because I don't know, in certain ways I'm privileged that again I'm saying that I'm in a campus where I am able to do my research also. I'm also able to get the training for the business related side. My guide, Professor Colin Jamora, is has given so much of freedom to operate. So I think that when you are liking what you're doing, you would not think of it as a work. You would think of it as a life.
Absolutely.
Then it's just a life balance, not work-life balance.
Perfectly. I
Yeah,
think
you may get complaints from your partners and parents that okay, you should spend more time, and yeah, that's a time you should take a break off too, and then you do. But uh, at least if you are super passionate, then you would not be thinking about your own work-life balance. Somebody else will come and tell you that you should think about it.
absolutely. I think only a passionate researcher can say instead of work-life balance, they say life-life balance. It's already there. It's just their partners and associated friends and family who will tell them that we also need time. We also. So when something like this happens, then or how the way you deal with that?
No, I mean you definitely have to take them seriously because they are you don't realize, but they're your backbones.
Yes.
Imagine if you have a very hectic day and that failed experiments and investors have rejected you, and then now you know that the funding is left only for the coming 3 months. After that, you have to shut the doors. Maybe your colleagues, employees, and uh, investors are not going to be your friends and family. Only your real friends and family are going to stand behind you. So they are definitely the priority. uh, and whenever they are saying that you should better take a time for yourself and for the family, you better take them seriously. You plan your schedule in a much better way. But I ended up saying that that life balance is because it's often that researchers, entrepreneurs, or anybody in any field, I think even an artist who is painting some very interesting drawing, might just forget what time of the day and night he's working at. And so they don't see their work as hard work. They just see that as a just passion work or the hobby work. So yeah.
So Tanay, we heard all the positives, all the bright, shining side of research. You love it, you are passionate about it. Have you ever felt stuck or low when you are doing research and for a moment you don't want to be a researcher? Has that ever happened with you?
The lows are multiple times, not just once, many times, right? That's what I was mentioning, that my PhD wasn't a routine 5 or 4 years PhD that we are done and just get out. It took me, I think, little more than 8 years to finish it. And at many points, I was very scared that, oh, if will this project turn out okay or not? My hypothesis, which I am leading for so many years now, my results are aligning properly with that or not? uh, so that is, I think, definitely part of the academic research. At least that's what the experience I have, that is of. um, because and that is the point where probably more of the build up of your personality happens. That's the time which is low, and in such seminars and presentations, people only talk about successes, and that's why these questions are very important. That no, that's not, that is just probably the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot which goes unsaid because most people do not want to, perhaps are comfortable with sharing that no, they not just felt low, they also felt like quitting the research, but they still continued. And then so this happens definitely, and there is nothing wrong in at some points you think like, no, what I had thought of research is not what it is turning out. It's perfectly fine feeling. It's in many cases, my colleagues, my friends, I've seen that they are working on a certain projects which are not working out that well. They are in certain labs where the environment is not as supportive. Mm, so these things happen, and that is the life. uh, we better take a break. We better look back, that so far we have achieved so much. uh, so we have potential, that is for sure. It's just that probably we are pushing in the wrong direction. So can we now shift our focus for a while, can I work on slightly different project? And that is what actually happened with me also, that I was working on PhD project which was not moving as much, and it was bringing my morale very low. So I started working with another project which was with Unilever. And Unilever company was interested in understanding how the antimicrobial peptides secretion is regulated. I started working with their projects, and it somehow that project moved faster than my own PhD project, and that boosted my morale. That, oh, see, I'm not completely useless.
Yeah.
It's just a project which was difficult. So that little shifting around, talking to friends, talking to even the counselors, if that facility is there where you can talk to some sort of counselors about your frustration of the research life, personal life, or anything, that would be very helpful. Same thing still goes on with whenever you come to the entrepreneurship also, that you will always be on your toes. Okay, when is the next round of funding I should be starting? Is my research sufficient for filing the patents or not? What if I will not be granted the patents? What if investors will not like my idea? So these doubts and questions have been there, and I think will be there. So
No, we wish you good luck with future. But so now we are at the verge of the conversation timing. So, what do you suggest that a researcher should consider when they are joining the PhD, when they are finishing their PhD, in the postdoc, or in nutshell, a researcher should always keep in mind, if you can give some bullet points based on your own experience?
That's too much of a responsibility. So first bullet point is that don't just listen to this particular conversation we are having. Listen to all the conversations and listen to as many people as possible, but follow what your heart says. I mean, for me, it was utmost critical. Now, when I look back, I think is finding the right mentor.
Yes.
And I felt that with Colin, that yes, Professor Colin Jamura was best for me, who could bring in interest into this field where I worked, and also gave me liberty to explore project in my own ways. So that was what I liked. There are many friends who might not like the freedom, but rather they like more structured program where every next experiment should be planned. There has to be seniors who would guide you. There has to be PI who is available, and so then you have to talk to the laboratory members who are already doing PhD. Talk to them that how is the principal investigator, how are the projects ongoing, how quickly people are publishing, in general the lab environment they are liking or not, because PhD is more or less 3 to 5 or maybe 7-8 years of commitment of your life, and that's quite a long period. So you better start somewhere where you like it, and in the middle somewhere, if you feel that no, this is not the correct choice I've made, it's perfectly fine to go back into some other field also. And there are many such incidences and examples we have where people have left the PhDs but are much more happier. There is no compulsion. But if you are looking for PhD, do look for the place which is where you will like it, where you will not feel day and night work as a hard work, but as a passion work. And once, if you are say at the end of your PhD, don't wait till your PhD reaches the end. You start looking for the, say if you want to go for the postdoctoral place anywhere, then start applying to all the maybe the abroad or in Indian best places, because by now you would have experienced that what field you are liking. Now your guests would be more educated. Talk to the PIs who are taking the postdoctoral researchers. Also look for various industry positions, because nowadays there is a trend that people are after finishing the PhD getting into the R&D departments of various startups and established companies, and they are enjoying there as well. So there are many friends who are enjoying after their PhDs, instead of postdoc they are doing the industrial thing. Entrepreneurship is something I'm still learning, so I wouldn't advise you that no, forget everything and go to the entrepreneurship, because that's another ball game. I'm still learning how to play this game. But yeah, it's, if you think that, ever in your life that yes, this with a little bit of funding and leadership skill, and you are ready to go on to the adventure trip, then this is the thing where you will definitely find adventure. But yes, be ready with open mind to learn as much as possible.
Nice. Tanay, that was great to hear your journey and your thoughts about it. So now we will officially, before saying thanks to you, I just want last note to all my audience and viewers that you can find a very good mentor in Tanay. You can write it to him. You can write directly to him. If you want Empowerment
Definitely.
Foundation, we are there to help you. Just don't hesitate. Go
Yes,
speak your mind out.
thank you, Raja. My email ID you can give, it's a mailkoshkey@gmail.com, and or they can just find me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to interact with as many as possible. Yeah, as a friend. Mentor is a very big title.
See, you have to get this. Somebody has done this for you. Now it is your time to do it for others. So
Sure.
good
Friendly conversations are definitely will be there.
Yes, absolutely. So with this, we will say bye to all our audience and thanking Tanay for sharing the brilliant experience and journey with us. We will see you all in another episode of Research and Celebrity. Thank you.